How to get business from sophisticated clients. So in this video, I want to talk to you about something that's rarely covered comprehensively. But before we get into that, if you like this sort of content, then make sure that you hit that like button and the subscribe button. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, then put them down in the comment section below. Let's get back to the topic of today's video. Most marketing people will only cover fragments of what's needed to grow a business, rarely the whole. Additionally, they will almost never be able to convey how someone can attain business from more sophisticated target audiences. So what do I mean by sophisticated clients and sophisticated target audiences? Well, these are typically individuals or companies who hire, purchase, or use service providers based on relationships, not based on advertising or anything else. So for these clients and target audiences, relationships is what matters when it comes to making a decision on who they are going to work with. So what does that mean for you? Well, if you are getting business today based on relationships, then it can mean that it can be quite difficult to know what you need to do to consistently be able to get more business and avoid ebbs and flows. And furthermore, it's generally quite challenging to find quality information about how to do this. And in addition, finding service providers such as marketing experts or business consultants and coaches that are equipped with the right knowledge to be able to help you successfully. So let's look at some of the reasons for why this is. Well, ultimately, it comes down to these three reasons. The first one is complexity. The second, lack of trusted resources. And the third, time to see results. I want us to look deeper at each of these different areas next. So obtaining business from C-suite like CEO, CIO, CTO, and senior decision makers, as well as more challenging target audiences like, for instance, attorneys, usually requires a totally different approach to business development and marketing than for many other businesses. These audiences will generally not buy your service or product just because they saw an ad from you on Google or somewhere else, or that they saw a LinkedIn post from you or a blog post. The drivers behind how they make decisions are very, very different. The second point is good help is hard to come by. There's generally two groups of people that you come across when you're trying to get someone to help you with developing your business. It's the marketing experts and the business consultants. Now, most marketing people aren't really that well equipped to help you. And that's because they generally come from a traditional digital marketing background. Now, there's nothing wrong with this type of background, and it may even be helpful for you, but it's generally exactly what you don't need as a starting point. And by that, I mean, you don't need to start with advertising. You don't need to start with search engine optimization, building fancy websites, posting on LinkedIn and Twitter and other social media with great frequency, and more. So even with the best intentions, it can be quite difficult for these individuals to help you because they simply don't understand the drivers behind how someone like you are getting business. Now, if we look at the consultants and the coaches, they will have a slightly different approach, such as you need to stay in touch with your clients, you need to reach out to 1 or 2 or 3 new people per day, you need to come up with a marketing plan, or even you need to think positively. And I'm absolutely not saying that these things don't have value. Again, a lot of them do have value. But unless you have unlimited time, money, and energy, what you should be focusing on is the leading indicators that actually are the real drivers for how you produce business. Number 3, it takes time to see results. So even with the best strategy, it tends to take time to see results when it comes to trying to get business from new contacts and new clients. So a direct consequence of this is that if you have the wrong strategy and the wrong execution of that strategy, it can end up taking you a very long time to see results, if you see any results at all. Now, why is that? The easiest way to illustrate this is by using this simple image, the delayed feedback loop. And what does that mean? Well, it means that initiatives to generate new business when you're dependent on relationships will generally rarely generate immediate results. So an example of this would be a restaurant. And it's by no means easy at all to run a restaurant. I can fully appreciate the difficulties of doing that. But if we just look at this simple example, you are the owner of a restaurant and you decide to take out an ad in the local paper. You're offering a discount. Anybody who comes in this coming Saturday using a voucher code, they get 25% off. Now, come Saturday, your restaurant is absolutely packed. Everybody's using that voucher code. So it will be quite easy for you to deduce that if you take out ads in the local paper and if you offer these kind of discounts, you are generally going to be able to fill up your restaurant completely. So your action and the results are very easy to track. It's very tangible that what you are doing is actively generating new business. But if you are running a business which is dependent on relationships with more sophisticated audiences, this is not how it will work, because the results of your business development activities will usually have a delayed effect. So what does this mean for you? Well, it means three different things. The first thing is results will take time. That's an obvious one. The second point is it becomes difficult to gauge the impact of your business development activities. And thirdly, it becomes challenging for you to determine what you should be spending your time, money, and energy on from a business development and marketing perspective. So this can make starting and growing a business or a practice a bit like navigating through a maze. Now, because people often don't know what to do to grow their business or start a new business, they tend to default to a few different activities. And we speak to a lot of people, we work with a lot of people, and we see these things time and time again. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about that. The things that we see is people tend to approach this by trying to be hands-off. They tend to use fragmented approaches. And finally, many just stick to doing a good job and not much else. Let's look at the most common one first, the hands-off approach. Now, if you had hoped for a completely hands-off approach to your business development and marketing efforts, I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but it simply does not work like that. But it sure sounds appealing, doesn't it? Now, you may disagree with me and say, hold on, Dan, I can actually trace new business or recurring business coming in from activity XYZ where I played no active part. And I'm not disagreeing with you on that. That may very well be true. But what I'm saying is, for the vast majority, it will not be effective and it will not be systematic. And even for you, if there are additional things that you could be doing to produce more business with minimal effort and at zero cost, isn't that something that you'd be keen on exploring? So why is it that this hands-off approach doesn't work? Well, I think the easiest way is just use a few examples. If your target audiences are sophisticated by nature and make decisions based on relationship, how could you possibly be successful with your business development efforts if the only thing you did was post on LinkedIn, post on your blog, or hired some firm to get your website to rank highly on search engines, or paid someone to send out LinkedIn connections on your behalf? Additionally, how would a new website or advertising on search engines help you with building and cultivating new relationships? So moving on to fragmentation, this is something that you really want to avoid. And by this, I mean, if you only focus on one or a couple of activities, or you jump from activity to activity, that's rarely going to be time and money well spent for you. And this is something that people tend to do because of something that they read, because of what someone told them, or something that they heard, or what someone else is doing. Now, creating a strategy based on what you see and hear from others without any detailed knowledge about why they're doing what they're doing and if it's actually producing results is rarely a good idea. But it's very understandable, because when it's so difficult to understand what the drivers are for business for someone that's targeting sophisticated audiences, it's just so much easier to pay someone to help you with build a website or help you with search engine optimization or running ads, and then that's completely done and dusted with. And isn't it funny how most people in your position often are disappointed with marketing and business development people. I hear this so often that people are disappointed with the results that they've seen. And the explanation lies here. Because even with the best of intentions, these people are generally not that well equipped to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And you are not going to see the results that you want to see if you approach business development and marketing in this way. So that takes us to the final point, doing a good job. Well, doing a good job doesn't work for everyone, and it doesn't work forever. So defaulting to just doing a good job and hoping for that to generate more business and new business isn't much of a strategy, if you ask me, because it is reactive. Now, granted, word of mouth is the best form of marketing and business development. But if you approach this in a completely reactive way, then you are not generally going to see the results that you want to see. And the reason is simple, because you're not in control here, and you're not going to be in position to affect change and create these larger scale ripples on the water that you want to see happen. Sure, you may see some results from this, but you may not see all of the results that you want to see on a consistent basis for perpetuity. And additionally, if you don't have a broad and diversified set of clients and referral parties, it makes it very challenging for you. And you can't really rely on only doing a good job to fill your book of business. If you're just starting out today, then this strategy is completely useless to you, because you can't rely on word of mouth because you haven't actually worked with anyone yet that can help you spread that word of mouth. What you also need to keep in mind is that things change, and they change more often than you may think. Clients and referral parties may retire, they may move to a different business, the businesses that they work on may shut down, they may find other parties to work with that's even outside of the control of your main contact. So there are a lot of different things that can happen. So only relying on doing a good job puts your business at great risk. And I've already said this once, but does this mean that word of mouth and doing a good job is something that you shouldn't be focused on from a business development perspective? Well, of course not. As I said, this is one of the best forms of marketing. So it's absolutely something that you should be focused on. But, and this is a big but, they should always form part of a broader roadmap and a broader set of activities. And there are things that you can do to leverage your network and help word of mouth along the way. So what is it then that will make you succeed with business development? In our experience, having worked with hundreds of professionals just like you, it comes down to these three things. Number one, having a system that works, a system that is replicable, and a system that is proven. Continuous effort. And by this, I mean continuously paying attention to the system and its set of activities. And number three, time. You always need to allow for time. Time is a big factor here, particularly when it comes to generating business from new contacts, because it goes without saying that relationships are not something that you build and cultivate overnight. And when I'm talking about a system here, I'm not talking about some kind of funnel, device, or app. It's a roadmap with a structured set of activities that will help you leverage the power of your existing network, as well as create and cultivate new contacts while maintaining sufficient visibility so that you're able to stay top of mind. Now, the benefits of something like this is that you don't have to think about what you're doing and second guess what you're doing. It's a question of simply implementing the activities, maintaining your efforts, and allowing for time. Now, I've spent over 20 years doing this kind of work myself, and I've developed a system for obtaining just the kind of business that you are relying on. And that system is called the Contact Cultivation System. And this system works for any type of business in any location or niche area, as long as we're talking about businesses that are dependent on relationships. So how's that possible? Because it ultimately doesn't matter where you're based and what you do in that context. Your business or practice will be driven by your relationships and by your visibility. And visibility and relationships doesn't really change with your location or the area that you specialize in. Because you are always interacting with human beings on the other end, relationships will always matter for you. So how do you know if this system works? Well, I suggest you check out our public footprint. We have loads of LinkedIn testimonials and interviews with our clients on our website and on our YouTube channel. And that's besides everything else that we offer, such as a completely open and free community, YouTube videos, articles, free webinars, you name it. There is simply no system like this. Now, you may be thinking, well, is this some kind of LinkedIn program or some kind of business development marketing funnel? And the answer is no, it's much more comprehensive than that. Remember that slide about fragmentation? Well, you can't achieve with getting more business by only focusing on isolated efforts. This is a completely holistic system that will give you a roadmap that you can execute on that captures both the online space as well as the offline space, as in the real world. Because even though it's not a requirement, being able to engage with your clients and your referral parties and your prospects in person generally will be very beneficial in terms of cultivating and strengthening those contacts. So what is it that this contact cultivation system will do for you? Well, it will do a lot, but in a nutshell, it will come down to these three different things. It will allow you to capture new business and more of existing business through three different areas. It will allow you to get more business from your existing clients and referral parties, but it will also help you with leveraging your existing network to get more business from new clients and referral parties. It will also allow you to connect with influential individuals and entities that can help you with accessing your intended target audience so that you're able to extract direct business. And thirdly, it will also show you how you're able to create new connections and ultimately create business opportunities from those new connections. And let's just be clear about this, something that I think is really important to emphasize. The one thing that really matters for your clients and referral parties are relationships. If they don't have a relationship with someone, it's unlikely that they're going to start working with someone, and definitely not on a recurring basis. So social media advertising and other marketing activities aren't the main drivers for how business gets done. It is unlikely that you are going to get new business from a new contact based on that you connected with them on LinkedIn, or that they saw your latest blog post or your latest LinkedIn article. It simply doesn't work this way. But that doesn't mean that these activities aren't valuable. They are valuable, but they're usually valuable from a supporting perspective. They will generally help you stay top of mind, but they won't be the direct drivers of business. Now, there's always exceptions, but for the vast majority, it's going to be much more useful to focus on relationships, because relationships will be the path of least resistance. If you are a visibility rock star and you are getting direct, tangible business from these efforts, publishing on social media, writing articles, being on radio, TV, podcasts, speaking at webinars, etc., whatever it is, and it's actually producing real results for you, then that's fantastic. Then it's something that you should continue with. But you can add the relationship-focused efforts to add an entirely new area for generating business. But let's face it, most of us aren't rock stars at generating visibility and getting tangible business on the back of it. I think the reason why most people tend to focus on this is because they don't really know how to go about cultivating and building those relationships. And it also feels kind of safe to sit behind a keyboard and focus on your latest LinkedIn post or blog post. Now, let's circle back to the contact cultivation system. What exactly is the system and what does it consist of? Well, it consists of four main pillars. And I'll just give you a brief explanation of each of these, and then we'll look closer at pillars 1 through 4. Number 1 is the contact initiation pillar. So in that pillar, you'll learn how to make new connections. Pillar 2, contact cultivation. This is what 99% of marketing experts and consultants and coaches won't teach you. What happens after that initial point of contact, when the initial contact has been made? This is a process that can last months or even years for some. Pillar 3, contact preservation and leverage. When you've succeeded with establishing a business relationship or establishing a contact, how do you then preserve it and how do you make the most of it? And finally, number 4, implementation. So a roadmap and a strategy and a set of activities is all fantastic, but it means absolutely nothing without implementation. Now, this is where most people fall short. They simply aren't able to implement the activities. Even if it only comes down to 20 to 30 minutes per day, how can you ensure that you get this done? So how can we summarize what's covered in the contact initiation pillar? Everything else being equal, it's going to be easier for you to generate new business if you're able to connect with 1,000 people instead of just 5 people. That goes without saying. But the trick is to find systematic ways of doing this where you can produce systematic results. It also comes down to working both the on and offline space. And when it comes to the offline space, as I mentioned earlier, what I'm referring to there is the real world. Doing this successfully with sophisticated target audiences also requires you to approach them in a more delicate and sophisticated way. That means that you need to avoid neediness in content, in narrative, and in your approach. For the contact cultivation pillar, we cover the post-initiation process. So what happens after you've made a new connection on LinkedIn or at a conference or somewhere else? What is the process and set of activities that needs to be conducted to effectively be able to cultivate that new relationship? Warm-up activities plays greatly into this. What are the set of activities and what's the sequence of those activities to be able to bring someone from a completely new contact to someone that not only is happy to do business with you and business on a recurring basis, but also is open to helping you get business from new sources. And as mentioned in Pillar 1, we want to always approach this both from the on and offline space. Pillar 3, contact preservation and leverage. This all comes down to top of mind strategies. How are we able to non-intrusively always be front and center of our existing clients and referral parties? And this comes down to really making the most of your efforts, not only settling for getting more business, but also leveraging your network so that your network networks on your behalf. And in this space, visibility also comes into play as a supporting effort. So how are we able to enhance and elevate your visibility so that you continue to stay noticed, stay top of mind, and potentially also attract the attention of new clients and referral parties? And finally, Pillar 4, activity implementation. Since it's generally so challenging for most people to find the time to properly focus on business development and build the necessary habit of doing so, we always need to start with asking ourselves, what are the core set of business development activities that you could and should be doing yourself? And secondly, what activities are non-core and could be managed by others? And thirdly, what, if anything, can be automated? If you're curious about the Contact Cultivation System, then make sure that you schedule a free consultation with us. The link is going to be down below in the description and in the comment section. During this call, we will provide you with free business development diagnostics and advice. And this won't be a sales pitch. We will be completely honest with you. If there isn't a fit, then worst case, you'll walk away from this call with some hands-on suggestions on how to take things further on your own. But if there is a fit, then fantastic. Perhaps we will end up working together. Are you still looking for more information? That's perfectly fine. Have a look at our public footprint with LinkedIn testimonials, client interviews, YouTube videos, free webinars, and our free community. We have all the experience in helping clients just like you all across the world produce real and tangible results. So I hope you found that presentation useful. If you're interested in the Contact Cultivation System, then do make sure that you schedule your free consultation call with us. And as usual, if you like this video, make sure that you hit that like button and the subscribe button. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, then put them down in the comment section below. Thanks very much for listening in.